Nice beautiful morning, a little windy, heading to Exeter High School. Talk to two New Hampshire legends in high school football. Bill Ball of Exeter High School and Skip Swiezynski, also coaching at Exeter High School. And we're going to talk a little football today, learn a little bit about how they got into football, their why, understand what they're hoping to do, hoping to hear a little bit about what they like to impart in young men in terms of the character traits and things that will help those men be successful in life, but also a little bit about their legacy and what they hope to leave behind. So stay tuned and looking forward to it. It's going to be an awesome day. Bye now. Okay, everybody. Right up there says William Ball Stadium, Exeter High School, home of the Blue Hawks. Here today to talk to William Ball. He actually goes by Billy Ball, or Bill. High school football legend here in New Hampshire. I'm going to talk with him and Skip Swiezynski today at Exeter High School. And all right, everybody. So now I'm with Coach Bill Ball, Billy Ball. It says on the stadium out here, William Ball. Yes, he is one of the few coaches probably that is still coaching. It has a stadium named after him here at Exeter High School in Exeter, New Hampshire. I'm blessed to talk to him today, and we're going to get to know him a little bit, talk a little bit about his growing up, how he got into football, and what he likes to share with all the young men that you've coached over the years, because you've coached for how many years now, Coach?
47.
47. So you've been around the block a few times.
A few times.
Right. So this is going to be great. So, Coach, tell me a little bit about your background. Where did you grow up?
Yeah, I grew up in Melrose, Massachusetts. Always loved sports, in particular football. Played high school football at Melrose, graduated in '74. Yeah. Played for a great coach, a legendary coach down there named Joe Hogue. Okay. Had a tremendous impact on my life, as did all the assistant coaches at Melrose at the time. And I decided it was something that I wanted to pursue and go forward with. And I was lucky enough to, get out of college and graduated from Norwich in '78.
Norwich University?
Yes.
My dad graduated in '63.
There you go.
And I knew I liked you, Coach.
And through a connection in Melrose, I got an interview up here in the summer of '78, and hooked on with Dick Eustis and then as a freshman football coach. And
with this actual scoreboard in the field.
Yes, him, Dick, and his father, Richard Sr., both Eustises. Yep. Okay. His father was both legendary athletes at UNH. Yep. Legendary coaches. Dick had a incredible impact on my career. He really did. He got me in, with football, obviously, and refereeing lacrosse 46 years ago. Right. Jumped in with him and a bunch of his friends, and it's been a lifelong friendship. Right.
And so early on, you had guys that were speaking into your life through sports.
Correct.
And you quickly picked up on that, and you see now, in hindsight, right, perspective of time, how much impact you can actually have on a kid.
Yeah.
I'm sure you appreciate that much more than you did maybe when you were younger and first started out. But is that accurate?
I think it is accurate, and I think sometimes, we've always referred to at Exeter High School as, athletics is the last period of the day. I always say that coaching created block scheduling long before it started in the educational domain. Right. 2 hours a day, 2.5 hours a day, film study, everything. That's block scheduling, and right. And they caught up with us. So it's been great. The kids, really get a lot from it. And that's from the starters to the kids that back up. It's really important that we try. The biggest thing for me is to make sure every student athlete feels valued. Right. From sophomore to the senior captain, that everybody's valued.
Yeah, because football is one of the few sports where there's a lot of people on the team. A lot of them don't get to play a lot.
No question.
And some even their whole career. They might get some cleanup time or sub late in the game or for an injury. And those are the guys, in hindsight, I have a lot of respect for, because I'm not sure I could have done it, Coach, quite honestly. I was fortunate enough to be a good enough athlete to start pretty early, but I did have to earn my keep freshman, sophomore year, and then started all over again up at Plymouth. But I was able to get on the field early, but I always had a great appreciation for those guys that just showed up every day because they loved playing football, they loved the environment. And they knew they were making their teammates better.
And they're valued, and
because
the bottom line is you're only as good as, your scout team, your look squad. You script things out for them. You want them in this front, you want them in this coverage. If they don't do that well and they don't compete and they don't make you better on those Tuesdays and Wednesdays and work days, you're not going to be ready. So it's really a collective effort. Yeah,
and so at Concord, we call it the slime team, affectionately. And then we had slime player of the week. That was a big deal. That was like, you got the next week, the first day of practice, it was like, hey, slime player of the week last week was so-and-so, because they really did this and they did it well and they scouted well. And so that's interesting. So you realized pretty quickly that it's a sport where you have to include everybody in, all the student athletes, like you said.
It's huge, everybody, and it's so, I don't want a bad word, but it's underrated. I think coaches really don't. They know it. Yeah. They know when they get a good look. Yeah. They know when they get a good thud, and they know when it's not great. Right. And it takes a special person. It takes a competitor. That's hard-nosed and is not afraid to grind and work.
Right. So your coaching career, where did you start up?
I did my student teaching at Melrose High School.
Melrose? Okay. Yeah. So you went back home?
In Melrose, I coached down there for a year. Then I was lucky enough to come up here and the next year and kick in with Dick Eustis in '78. Okay. Coach freshman football, freshman basketball.
So you're learning from a legend at that time. You're seeing the guy that's been doing this for a while and his techniques and preparation.
Awesome guy. And really, really underrated offensively. He was running the run and shoot.
Okay.
Back in the day when nobody was running.
Nobody was running it.
No, he was, yeah. and he was big friends with a old St. Paul's coach up in Concord, Bud Blake. Okay. Who was running a lot of that stuff, and he worked up there for him for a while and picked up some ideas and concepts and learned a lot, and not just about X's and O's, about people. Yeah. And what we just talked about, it's everyone all in, the whole group.
So you learned the foundation from him. You picked up. Was that where you started to develop your own style?
I think so.
And how long were you an assistant coach?
I was an assistant coach up until like '88. Then I got promoted to co-head coach. Yep. And then I took over when Dick retired in, I think, '92. Okay. And then that's when Skip came in. And but I was lucky to retain all the other assistants: Billy Callahan, Carl Robertson, all those guys back in the day, and so we had a lot of continuity. Yeah, good coaching staff. And Exeter tradition, right? All these guys played for the Blue Hawks. Yep. And it means a lot to them. Still does. Yeah, and that counts a lot, right? Because communities rally around that. Right. I was talking with Paul Levine the other day on his experience, and he went to a lot of different programs, a different route than you took, and he sort of turned programs around and started a couple, and it was all about, if you can get the community involved, you get the players to buy in, and you build that foundation, it's like they will come, the players will come, because they see that success or that excellence or that discipline. And everywhere Paul Levine's been, he's been incredibly successful. Yeah. Yeah, I don't care if it's the college level, the high school level. Yep. I don't care if it's at Stevens High School,
he's in his 80s now too, Coach.
No, he's a great man.
He's still active. He's coaching up at, he's a defensive coordinator at Guilford.
He's a great man. They're lucky to have him. And, again, talk about guys that are grounded in fundamentals and sound football and
Right.
and you know, little things like stance and start and get off and take off. You know, it's great. You
the
know,
little things that maybe
that
a
matter.
young coach wants to rush through.
They matter. They all matter.
Yeah. Now, so let's go to the late 80s.
Yep.
That's when you and I crossed paths.
We
I
did.
played in the Shrine Maple
We
Sugar
did.
Bowl in 1989. It was my senior year was the 88, fall of 88, but the game was played in the summer of the following year. So
Yep.
89, and you were one of the coaches on that
It
team.
was.
And that was a really good team.
Oh, it was a great team.
You've, I believe, coached several different times with the Shrine.
Couple, yeah. Head coach, assistant coach, you know, that year with Kenny Laporto.
Yes. Yes.
And then I did it in 2004. Brought the Exeter guys. But that '89 team, I remember well. I mean,
we had some
defensively, I remember they were a triple option team.
Yep.
Wishbone team. That was the top for the game, and
I played free safety. In
I
that
know what
game.
you played. You played free safety,
We had
and
Jay
Dunn played.
Teslis.
Dunn played strong safety, and they didn't go very far
They didn't run
that
very
day.
far. Yeah.
No.
And but you know what, Coach? I'll never forget you because of that experience. 2 weeks, triple sessions up at Plymouth State before the game and all that. You were an intense guy. You had a tendency to get a little excited and yell and
A little bit.
and do the breakdown right in the middle of talking.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is my kind of coach. I like this guy. It was really, because I'm a rah-rah guy at heart.
Yeah.
You know, I have to get really amped up to play well. I'm not really cerebral. Probably why I was on defense more than offense. But was that your style? That to me, it just showed passion.
From day one, I think, day one, and you know, you get into a game like that, and you take the trip to the hospital, right?
Yeah.
And you see what it's all about, and you feel so fortunate as a person, as a team, to be able to give back to the Shriners and all they do for young people.
Kids, yeah.
It's very humbling.
It puts it all in perspective.
It certainly
Coach?
does,
especially for young guys coming right out of high school. I remember that because we went down to Massachusetts for that. And for those that don't know, the Shriners game is a fundraising game for the Shriners, and they have their Shriners Hospital, which they support a lot of kids who are dealing with really life-threatening things and every day, and the kids are grinding it out to just live. And I remember walking away from that saying, wow, I got a lot to be thankful for. I got to have a lot of gratitude because I'm a healthy kid, and it was a little bit like life-changing. Like, hey, the world's a little bigger than your little high school bubble I was living in.
And you know what's it's still to this day, when we went down to Springfield to visit the kids midweek there, I'll never forget, because you know the bus ride over, the coach bus was nice, the kids are talking. I can remember driving back. It was pretty quiet.
Yeah.
Pretty humbling.
Yeah.
And
it was. It was impactful.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we got to go up we played at Dartmouth. That was the traditional location for that. A lot of people, because that was the only all-star game back then. The Chad game didn't exist.
Right.
And, you know, I think there was 20,000 people there that day. It was really, for a high school kid, it was like, wow, this is the real deal.
No.
And we won, so that was good.
We did. Shut them out.
Yep, so that was great. And that was a good time. But, okay, so at that point, you're a few years here, and now you've been here since then.
I have.
And we're in 2025.
Yes.
So you're in the, 40-plus group now of coaching football.
Be 48 this year, I think.
And I was doing a little research, you know, like I should, preparing for this. So you're in the NHIAA Hall of Fame as well, and you've had quite a few championships. You've been in a lot of championship games.
Yep.
Do you know how many championships you've won? Is it 8 or 9?
I think 7.
7?
7.
And you've been in like 15 to 20?
Yeah, something like that.
So
and,
a good record.
Some great
You're probably
ones,
up
some
over 200 wins
heartbreakers.
now.
Some great,
around it?
Some great championship games, some tough losses.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get there and you play so hard to get there, and you know you run up against a team that has a little bit more that day, and but they're you know, I say it all the time. They're all
sometimes
champions.
you're in a game where the bounce doesn't go your way. Those are really hard to take sometimes.
They are, and sometimes they get,
a turnover.
Right,
You play really great, and then there's a fumble.
Right.
On a scoring drive. But that's life, right?
That
so
is.
You're teaching these kids life, and that was what I was telling Skip was, we lost the state championship against Skip when he was at Trinity head coach, and for a long time that hurt. As a young 18-year-old kid, and I was fortunate enough to win a state championship the year before.
Right.
And so I had felt the sort of thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. And, in hindsight now, I can see that as something that really forced me to grow.
Right.
It was really hard, but Coach Gaddy was great. He was a great mentor to me, has been for most of my...
Great man.
Yeah. And so I remember as we go on, I remember the wins and losses less. I remember the people more. The coaches more.
I say it all the time. It's not about wins and losses. It's about relationships. And even today, it's become more and more prevalent. It's about relationships and staying in contact with kids.
Yep.
A lot over the summer, and whether you're lifting or 7-on-7 or doing our, we go pretty hard in the summer and checking up on kids and checking up on how they're doing, their wellness, and
So by now you've coached probably thousands of kids over the years, because you got roughly like a 50 guys on a team.
At least,
each year.
More, yeah.
Yep. So you add that up over 40 plus years. So a lot of impact on a lot of guys. Now, do you run into guys every once in a while?
All the time.
Just like you and me, right?
Every day.
At the lacrosse game the other night.
I'm walking off the field at Pembroke, and there you are on the fence.
Yeah.
And, it's great. They come back, and they always come back for the winning kind of game.
Yep, that's the big rivalry.
That's the big one here, yeah. And they're great. We get, we see a lot of the guys from the 1960s. They come back as a group.
Yeah.
65, they had a great run here with Charlie Birch for 3 consecutive titles. A lot of tradition in the school.
Pete Hansen of Pete Hansen Football here. I am with Skip Swiezynski at Exeter High School, longtime football coach. And we're going to chat a little bit today about his background, how he got into football, his philosophy, some of the things he's learned along the way, and also, what you look to impart in the young men that you've been coaching for all these years. So, Skip, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, how you got into football?
Well, born and raised in Exeter, New Hampshire. Made my way back here. Started playing football. You kind of pick it up in the yard. You watch it on TV, and played junior high football back when we had junior high football, and then played high school. Went on to play up at UNH, and that's kind of really the way I got into it.
So at UNH, well, what position did you play?
Well, I was my senior year in high school, we did the single wing.
Okay.
So there was no quarterback, direct snap back.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so that was my senior year. And so I was basically a tailback.
And they would snap the ball directly to you?
Either to me or the back next to me, who was Bill Callahan.
Oh,
and so when I went to, that was, like I said, basically a tailback. Then I went to UNH, and somewhere along the line they said, here's a net caller, and I said, you wear a net call? And they said, all our fullbacks do.
Okay.
So I went from being a tailback to an I fullback, which was a bit of a change. Instead of carrying the ball, I did a lot of blocking. So.
Yep. So tell me a little bit about your high school career, playing basically tailback, single wing, like you said. Did you guys have good seasons? And who was your coach again?
Dick Eustis.
Okay.
Named after Eustis Field, which is the field we're walking around right now.
Yeah. Okay.
So he was my high school coach. We ran the I my sophomore and junior year. My sophomore year, junior year we ran was called the run and shoot back then, double wing motion.
Okay. So the run and shoot, that was probably pretty cutting edge at that point.
Yeah, it was.
Because it was mostly running football back in the day. Right,
for sure.
That seems to come around because I think now it feels like the spread offense is back, and it's kind of like a version of the run and shoot, a little RPO.
Right, you've got I still say it's a lot of running as opposed to passing. If you really
Yeah.
get down to it, they're just trying to spread you out and try to
run the ball,
get you one-on-one with people and
a lot of
create
that's
space.
out of necessity, right? Because it's hard to get a really good quarterback who has a good arm, who can read, who can make the throw to the outside.
You got to pass
in high
protect.
school.
You got to catch the ball.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that go into passing the ball.
And if you only have one running back, then the defense sort of knows, okay, if it's a run game, that's where it's probably going to.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit easier to defend at times. But I've seen teams that run it well, run it really well, and that seems to work for them. But back to your high school career. So a lot of run. How did you do? You obviously went to UNH, so you were a pretty good athlete.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to. Well, I played with a lot of good football players on my team that blocked pretty well for me, so they allowed me to run the ball pretty well. I was able to get a scholarship to go there, so it was great.
And what did you get your degree in?
Physical education.
Okay, and that seems to be education seems to be a pretty consistent pathway for coaches, because most of them end up working at the school they coach at or another local school. So that similar pathway for you?
Yeah, I always liked sports. I always had all my coaches were, going back to minor league baseball, were great coaches. They mentored me. They were good to me. They were good people that. And those were good role models for me, as well as my parents, obviously, but those were kind of the role models. So I like sports, so I got into PE, and I figured I had a lot of good coaches who did a lot of good things for me. I wanted to give back as well as a coach.
Yeah. So you mentioned minor league baseball. So you were a two-sport athlete in high school, or three?
Three. I played football, basketball, and baseball. Played hockey up until high school. So I just liked playing sports.
So I was talking to Coach Paul Levine, and he mentioned the game, when he was coaching that you played in, and you were the running back at Exeter, and you were a big guy. I mean, you're a pretty big guy. How big were you in high school? Were you
6'2", 205, yeah.
205. So for New Hampshire high school football, everybody, that's pretty big running back.
It was certainly big back then. I was bigger than most of the linemen on our team.
Right. Put your best athlete at running back, right? But I also heard you had some pretty big stats during your high school years. Did you have one game where you ran for close to 200, 300 yards?
I ran almost 350 with 49 carries in the game.
In one game?
Yeah.
Wow. Hopefully you won.
We did.
Because you paid for it like Earl Campbell back in the day, right? Like, you carried the ball almost every play. Well, they snapped it right to you.
Right.
Okay, so that makes some sense.
With a lot of good, trust me, you don't get those yards without people blocking in front of you.
Yeah, exactly.
You
can only run over people so many times.
I wasn't, in that game I can remember not even being touched maybe at linebacker depth, so we had some,
really good,
you don't
really
get
good
good
teammates,
stats like that without
and that's one of those things, right, Coach? Because football teams are only as good as the teammates on the team, right? Because there's 11 guys that have to do their job every
play. To me, it's the ultimate team sport.
Yeah, because it has that physicality. It's a mental game, more mental than most people realize, unless you played football. In the tactical technique, all that stuff. It's not as easy as people think watching it from the stands. There's a lot
that goes
even
into
at the high school level.
They watch us play and they think, they run right, they run left, they run up the middle. There's a lot going on in the offensive line that people don't understand what we're trying to do.
Right.
So.
Right. Oh, that's good. So then you went up to UNH. You stayed in the backfield. How was your experience up there?
It was good. I got some playing time. I got hurt my sophomore year, and college is one of those deals. We're always looking to recruit the next guy. And
it's always a fresh freshman coming in, right?
So you got to hang in there. But it was good for me. It was a good experience to find out how, well, it's like not to play as much. So you understand that kid that doesn't play on your team. And that's how I kind of looked at it. And it was good.
And who were your coaches up there?
Bill Bowes was
Bowes.
So
okay.
Yeah. So I've played for some legendary coaches for sure.
So as you transitioned after you graduated and started to think about, what was the point where you said, hey, I want to actually coach?
Well, I always wanted to coach, and it's interesting because I think, I love baseball, so I thought I'd be a baseball coach. That's the only sport I didn't coach ever was baseball. I coached football and basketball, and I went to Bishop. I got I got a job at Bishop Brady. I was supposed to go to a softball tournament, and we got rained out, so I went to a wedding and met a guy there who gave me a lead to get a job at Bishop Brady, and ended up getting a job at Bishop Brady. I was 23, and I was the athletic director, the only PE teacher, and Jim Mullaney, you may know the name. Jim Mullaney was the head football coach at the time, and said, "Hey, you want to coach?" Because they never really hired me for coaching.
Right.
And he just kind of talked me into coaching. And
so Jim Mullaney, another longtime New Hampshire football coach, unfortunately no longer with us.
Right. He really good football coach.
You guys reconnected at Trinity.
Right.
In the 80s, late 80s, when we'll bring up the game later, but when I played against you guys in high school. But back to your Brady days. So good athletes. I'm from the Concord area.
Yeah.
So
Alec Warren.
Alec Warren, yes.
His brother Tony Warren, Chip Nyan, Lenny Brochu, Scott Liberty. There was some
really good athletes. Concord.
We got to draw from a lot of more towns back then because they didn't have football. So
right. And a lot of the good athletes went to Bishop Brady because of the good athletics, great hockey team.
Yep. Again, the sports
basketball.
offered that weren't offered at other schools.
Yeah. So I'm friends with some of those guys. Chip Nyan, I see him every once in a while, and Alec Warren. I actually played football with Alec Warren in Australia.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We both played for the Toowoomba Chargers in what they call the QGFL, and Alec Warren. I mean,
he was a man amongst beasts.
Yes, a
man
right?
among children. Man among children.
Imagine, and we played in a tournament over there, a 7-a-side to kick off the season. It was 11-on-11 during the regular season, but they had this 7-a-side thing, and I was a quarterback. He was a running back. We ran option all day long.
It's been a long day for them.
It was just like, let's do this.
He was a stud.
Great guy too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that team, if I recall, is the team that beat an undefeated, unscored upon Plymouth team in the state championship.
The year before I got there, 81.
Okay, so
I
you got
there in 82.
That next year.
Yep.
And Mullaney was still coaching there at that point?
I coached for 2 years with him and then took over the program.
So then you had, but you still had the Alec Warren.
Yeah, Alec Warren didn't play on that team. His brother Tony played on that.
Yes, right.
Not Tony.
Lenny,
yep. His brother Lenny played. Tony came over afterwards. But,
so
he played Chip was probably on that team. I'm not sure how much he played, but Chip and Lenny Brochu they must have played because they were seniors the next. No, they were sophomores the next year, I believe, because I believe they were on the team that won it in 83.
Yep. Yes. Chip remembers the game.
Yeah, 83.
Because that was a big game. But so you coached there under head coach Mullaney?
I did.
Yep. And was that where you sort of learned the ropes?
Yeah, I did for sure. You know how and I Coach Eustis, Coach Bowes, Coach Mullaney, all the same type of coaches.
Yeah.
So that's how I kind of grew up coaching that style. And now being here at Exeter, it's this. Coach Ball's the same. I coach that way, so it's all kind of been the same.
Yeah. Okay, so several years at Bishop Brady.
I was 4 years at Bishop Brady. Jim Mullaney was head coach for 2 years. He resigned, and I took over as the head coach.
Yep.
He didn't really come to practice, but he was there he was on the hill. Up in the booth with the headphones on and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
So he was still helping me out because you talk about green behind the ears. I was very green.
Yeah.
Very green, and still learning. And there's lots of things you change how you deal with kids. Just a whole different thing.
Yeah.
So I was there 2 years. Then I left.
Now, real quick, did you cross paths with Buddy Gray there as well?
Yes.
Yeah, Buddy Gray.
Yes, he
him.
coached with us.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure, Buddy Gray.
I worked for Buddy Gray in high school at the Dairy Queen on the Heights in Concord.
Yes.
So we go way back.
Yeah.
Okay, so you finish up your time at Bishop Brady?
It was just kind of time to move on, and took over for Jack Gaddy at Trinity. And now I wasn't the head coach when I got there. Jack left. He went to Concord
in '86. Yeah, fall of '86.
Right.
That was my sophomore year.
And I went to Trinity, and Nick Valis was one of the assistant coaches, and he took over as the head coach. My first year there, so I was assistant football coach for him. He resigned after that year,
Yep.
and then I took over in '87.
Okay. So at this point, so this is going to be your second head coaching job in a
Right.
short period of time. You're what, 25, 6?
Let's see, '86. I was 27.
27. Okay. So at that point, had you started to develop like your philosophy on how you wanted to build a culture, a team?
Well, I guess
the
it was
foundation?
kind of the culture that I'd always been in.
Okay.
You know,
So just
working hard.
replicate it.
I guess it's an ain't broke, don't fix it
Right. Yeah.
deal. I always like to, kids work hard, but you gotta have some fun. Football's a sport. If you don't have fun
Yeah.
out there at some point,
Yeah.
it's hard, I believe. I want to have
'Cause-
fun coaching.
Yeah. Because it's a lot of work, right? It's practice all week for one game on the weekend. You get 8 or 9 during the regular season. If you're lucky, you play in the playoffs.
Right.
So the kids,
And we
you
lift in
know,
the weight room,
grinding
now.
it out
yeah.
in the practice every day. If it doesn't have some level of humor and fun to
right.
it, you end up losing kids, right? Because
Yeah.
not everybody plays. Football is one of those sports where you have 11 guys on the field, and there's potentially 30 to 40 guys on the sideline
Right.
who probably don't even see the field, right? If they're a
Not in the
freshman,
varsity
something.
game, for
Yeah.
sure.
So it's a real, hey, you have to be a great teammate if you're going to be on a football team, because a lot of it's, you don't get a lot of gratitude
Right.
and appreciation
Right.
until your day comes, right?
Right.
And
Right.
you're prepping for that. So that's
Yeah,
interesting.
I coach the offensive line. There's not a lot of
Even less for
fun
them,
drills
right?
in the offensive. So it's
The
a little-
glory goes to all the specialty guys.
So you try to have some fun with them and joke
Yeah.
around and make fun of
Good.
yourself, make
Yep.
fun of
So-
things like that.
So then you go to Trinity. You start as the assistant coach, but then
Right.
you become head coach in '87.
Right.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about that season.
Well, that season was I tried to implement the same offense we had at Brady, and it was an I offense, and
Yep.
had some new coaches. Interesting fact on my staff that I had at Trinity, I think there were 6 of us altogether.
Yep.
Everyone played in the Shrine Game, and everyone lost in the Shrine Game. Now,
Oh,
this
really?
this is 1987.
87. Yeah.
How many games did New Hampshire lost
Yeah, not many at that point.
in Shrine football?
So-
Not a good common denominator.
Right.
amongst everybody.
So you had something
Anyway,
in common there as
but not a good thing in common. Anyway,
So for people that don't know, Google New Hampshire Shrine Maple Sugar Bowl. It's an annual game against Vermont All-Stars, essentially. Back in the 80s into the 90s, it was the only show in town. It was the only All-Star game
it goes
we
in
had
the
before the
60s,
Chad.
70s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a big deal.
Yeah, it was
And
huge.
It was great. It was the best talent from both states, typically. And that's what he was referring to there. So you had a staff of Shriners, guys that played in it. So all obviously great athletes.
Right.
But as you know, coaching's a little bit different.
Yeah,
right?
for sure. I mean, that's one of the things you kind of learn once you go back to when you go to coach. If you in college, your expectation is, and you're like, okay, this is just different. But anyway, it's all good. You just kind of feel your way through. I'm 27 at the time, so
Yep.
not a great season for us that year. We went into the last game of the year. We were 0-8. Memorial was 0-8. We
Yep.
played them on the last game of the season. And I won't tell you what we refer to the game as,
Right.
since we're in a PG.
Yep.
But anyway, we ended up winning the game, and it was great because the Trinity kids came out of the stands,
Yep.
and so we went 1-8. But I
Good.
think it kind of catapulted us towards our next season,
Yeah. Okay.
which was a little bit better.
Was a little bit better. So was that when you imported the straight T,
Well,
or did you try that out that?
No. I was doing the I, and that's when I call Jim Mulaney and I go, "Any chance you want to come down, coach with me at Trinity?"
Right.
And
Okay.
he says to me, "I was wondering when you're going to make this call." Jim was a classic. Classic.
Yep.
And so he came down and he says, "Hey, let's go talk to Jack Gaddy about running the straight T." I
Yep.
said,
Right.
"All right."
Yeah.
So sounds good. And Jack was great, obviously. And
Oh, very good.
so that's
And
how we
Mulaney
ended
had
up
bounced
running
around a little bit.
he had been to
Coached in
Franklin.
Franklin,
I think
Mudville, as they call it
Yes.
sometimes. Yeah. Yeah.
yes. Bishop
Great
Brady,
little town.
Yeah. was good football back then.
Yeah.
It was
hard-nosed.
There was some good. That was a
tough.
good rivalry between Brady and.
Yep.
It's one of the few rivalry games I would say that was similar to Exeter Winnicott that I've kind of been involved in. It's gone on for a long time. I don't know if it's still that way, but it certainly was back then. It was.
Yeah, you know, I think the programs have struggled like most these days because of the numbers. But Mudville's a term of endearment.
Yes.
Right? So all you Franklin folks, that's what we mean. But great football back then.
Tough.
So
tough kids. I sent some kids to UNH and scholarships.
Yeah, right. In a small town.
Yes.
So you connect with Mulaney.
He comes back. We go see Jack.
Season.
Yep. And you know, I don't know how many times we met with Jack. Probably more than he wanted to meet with us. But got the straight T. And Jim Mulaney was an outstanding defensive coach. I mean, you talked about the undefeated, unscored upon Plymouth team that they beat 7-0.
Yeah.
You know, so
At
Plymouth, and so he ran the defense, and we were good defensively. Obviously, we had some pretty good football players on that team too.
Yeah, that helps too.
Right? You have to have some kids who can play, but you also have those kids who have their role and know that work hard.
Know what the role is.
Yeah. So so we went into camp. We had pretty much the same staff. We were one of the bigger staffs in the state, I'll tell you, size-wise.
Yeah.
Yeah. We went to a few buffets. They wouldn't let us. They wouldn't let us back to.
They had to shut it down.
They wouldn't let us back.
Right.
Anyway, so that was So it made a huge difference having Jim there run the defense
and you had some good athletes that had grown up who were seniors.
Right.
Matt Manna. Emmerich,
Scotty Emmert
on the line,
Johnny Bergeron.
D1 football
player. I hate to
player.
name it because there's a million of them out there.
Yeah.
There were a lot of kids that were, had committed to having a good year, and committed to the football program.
And the T, you have to be disciplined, right? I mean, it's by Coach Gaddy, right?
Yeah.
By the inches. If he would be on you, if that tailback wasn't cutting right off the tackle.
Right, exactly. You got to know what you're supposed to do.
Every play. So, and it's the quarterback fakes to the fullback typically, or gives them the ball.
Right.
The tailback, and then
it's
the
almost a triple option without really. It's already predetermined.
Without the option piece,
right.
You just call whoever's going to get it. So that's a great thing, and it allows teams to actually, if you can continue to get first downs, you control the clock, because it's three yards in a pile of dust, right? Like,
it's Novocaine. It's just
not very exciting. Every once in a while, you'll bust a 40 up the middle or off tackle.
You get someone undisciplined, and the fullback runs between the two safeties who have no idea he has the football.
Yeah, we had that with our fullback. Jason Cabarello ran right past the Salem free safety. The kid was looking back at the line, and he had the ball. So
if everybody fakes and does their job, it's
So that team, full disclosure, right? I was the quarterback on the Concord team. You guys had a little bit of an up and down season where you fell behind in a lot of games and you came back. You upset.
Well, we had an unbelievable Nashua game.
Yeah, Rochester,
we were
I think, too.
32-6 to Nashua halfway through the third quarter. And came back to beat them. Yeah, and Rochester. Yeah, we were. I want to say we were 7-2, maybe.
Yep.
Something like that, I think.
And then you got into the playoffs. You guys beat West.
Beat West. Yep.
Because that was an interesting thing too, because we played West on the final day of the year, and we were both 7-1, and that was to see who was going to be the number 1 seed. And we won, so we were the 1 seed. We ended up playing Pinkerton. West ended up playing you guys.
Right.
And you guys beat them.
We did.
Even though they were the number 2 seed.
Well, a 14-13 game, they missed an extra point.
Yeah, that's how we beat them. They fumbled the snap on the next point with 30 seconds left, Coach.
I didn't know that. I didn't remember that.
As soon as he goes, as soon as I saw the fumble snap, I was like, I knew we should have went for 2. But that's how football games end sometimes, right? It's
little
usually
things.
turnovers.
I tell the kids all the time, little things add up to big things.
So we end up meeting, by that I mean Concord High and your Trinity team in the state championship. So T versus T, Coach Gaddy, longtime football coach. You guys, you're a young guy, but you had Jim Mulaney.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as head coach, it's coaching legend. Even at that point, he's still a coaching legend before he even won more state championships. And just this young Right-eyed kid trying to make his way along, and brought along a veteran coach.
Yeah.
And a good veteran coach, a great veteran coach to sort of help me along the way as well, making good decisions and things like that, and kind of.
Yeah. So he was, I assume, like kind of mentoring you too, and you were picking up the nuance of how to continue to coach.
Yeah, just the whole thing. Yeah, just how to. You're still dealing with kids and situations, and I mean, I said, I'm. What am I, 28 at that point. I'm not even 30 years old yet,
right. So you're in a state championship game,
right.
Class L, which was at that time Division I in New Hampshire. So that game,
we had won a state championship with Brady, though.
Oh yeah, right.
Alec Warren.
Right. Yeah, that's
right.
right.
Liberty.
So you already had a taste of the championship.
That's one of those deals. They say, I didn't hit a triple. I woke up on third base.
Right. Okay.
Because that team was loaded.
Right. Yeah. So
I fell into that one.
Yeah. Well, the Trinity
we still had to
one,
play Plymouth a little bit, but anyway, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. The Trinity one was really great because from a traditionalist football person would grind it out 2 tees in between the tackles most of the day. Real nail biter. 10-9 was the final score. You guys beat us at Concord, no less. Still a little pain in my heart on that one, Coach.
I understand.
But it was typical T on T, right? You got Matt Manna burst right up the middle in the first half, 60, 70-yard run, and that's how you score a lot of touchdowns. Other than that, it was 3 yards.
Yep.
3 yards.
Pound it out,
first
pound
down.
it and punt, pound it and punt.
And the first half, I think the first half was over in like 25 minutes.
Not enough time to get a lot of commercials on Channel 9.
We threw the ball maybe combined between 2 teams like 10 times, if that.
I was going to say that might be
most
high.
of them were mine, and on that last drive.
I was going to say on the last, you guys moved it down the field too.
And that was a little
one
bit.
of the things I learned on that last.
Yeah, we almost ran the kickoff back.
I tell my kids all the time, and this is what that play sticks in my head. We kick off to you guys. You fumble the kick a little bit.
Yep, Pepin.
All our kids converge. Boom, you break it through. I tell my kids, I run kickoff. I appreciate Coach Ball making me run kickoff team for 30-something years now. But anyway, I tell my kids, the ball hits the ground, you stay in your lanes. Don't come out of your lanes. I was involved with a game. Little they know it's 1988 that game was because you ran it back other side of the 50. I can't remember how far down, but always down there.
Your kicker pushed him out of bounds. I think on the 42 or so. But anyway, so it was one of those things, right? You guys went up 7-0 in the first half. We scored. We went for 2 and we missed it, so it was 7-6. Then late in the game, we got down. We kind of stalled on the 6-yard line. We kick our only field goal of the year.
Oh, really?
Matt Claflin.
Yeah, Matt Claflin.
Straight toe, the old school boot. And so that puts us up 9-7. Then you guys drive the field, and your sophomore kicker, Justin Fossbender, comes out. Kicks
it was a pretty long kick, I think, as well.
30, I think it was 32,
yeah,
36.
From the right hash, and it was kind of muddy out there that day.
Yeah,
that was a heck of a kick.
So you guys end up going ahead 10-9, and that's how it ended, and it was a great game. So that was your second championship, first.
Yep, again with Jim Mullaney.
Yep,
which he always reminded me.
Right.
I couldn't win one without him.
Yeah. So then where did you go from
there?
Now,
you know the quarterback was it?
Dan Mullen.
Danny Mullen.
Right. I got to do a whole thing on New Hampshire football coaches that have gone to the top level. Chip Kelly, Ryan Day. There's other guys in the state. Paul LaPolice, who I played with. He played at Nashua.
Yeah.
Played up at Plymouth. He was head coach in Canada.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You know what? I think I knew that, actually.
Yeah.
Now that you say that. Okay.
So
I just wanted to make sure.
Even though New Hampshire's like 2 million people. Right. And we're not some of these big football states. We're a hockey state in a lot of ways. But so you won the championship, and then how many more years were you at Trinity?
That was it. I ended up had a family. Pay it. Catholic high schools wasn't real great.
Yeah, for sure.
At that point, so I wanted to get into public education. I kind of been the only PE teacher in both schools, so I ended up going to Timberlane, coaching at Timberlane. So that was it was a good move. It was a good move for me as far as the teaching part was great, and I loved the football. The kids were, it was interesting. when I get there for the football part, I mean, it's great to have other PE teachers. I never got to talk to another PE teacher. It's nice to have there was a staff of 4 of us. It was fun.
Right.
The football, I remember getting there the first day and the kids are there, and the Bucky Tariff was the idea at the time, says, hey, you're not going to be able to have JV football because you don't have enough kids.
Yeah.
And I said, well, we can't do that. Can't build a football program because they had lost, I don't know, every game the year before, whatever. It doesn't. But so I told the kids at the first meeting, I said, you need to bring a friend.
Yeah.
You need to bring a friend back. And we were able to get JV football. And
everybody gets one more guy to come out.
Right.
Double your team, right?
So we were able to do that, and we won. So we implemented the straight tee. They went from a pretty wide open offense down there to the from
straight tee.
People out here to people in here.
You got to win a lot of guys over.
So you do have to win a lot of guys over. But you know, to me, I really think offensive linemen would rather run block than pass block, and I think running backs want to run with the ball, and and it's the quarterback is the one you got to kind of convince. But you get some good quarterbacks that can run the ball.
Then they started enjoying it because that was how I was.
Yeah.
As soon as I realized that I had opportunity to run the ball and score, then it was like, oh, okay, this works for me too.
And you can pass. I mean, then I mean, how many times was the guys wide open when you were going back to pass? Tight end on a keep-out pass, right?
Yep.
So
how many years were you there?
I was there for 4 years.
Okay.
And then that's when I ended up coming to Exeter, and
so you come back home at that point.
Yeah,
essentially.
And Coach Eustis had retired, so I was kind of taking his PE spot here.
Okay.
And Coach Ball took over the program, and so being a head coach wasn't the end all and be all for me.
Yeah.
I didn't need to be a head coach.
Right.
You know, to tell you the truth, sometimes it's better to be the
assistant,
soldier than the captain.
Yeah.
Because I just get to coach, I'd have to deal with all the extraneous things that happen when you're the head coach, and so I was lucky enough to get here with Coach Ball, and again, philosophy hadn't changed, same philosophy that basically I'd grown up with, and
foundation, discipline, the basics.
Yes, all the stuff that
don't get too fancy.
Right. Play possession football, punt, field position. You know, hard work, all that stuff that you don't need great athletes. You need kids who want to play.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. We'll take as many great athletes as we can. Hunter Long played for us. He's doing okay in the NFL. So,
That's right.
So, not that we didn't have any. Trust me, we've had plenty of great athletes roll through here. So.
But every once in a while or every few years, you get a core group of guys that are all in.
Well, it's interesting.
And you can see some real magic.
And they. Just in recency bias, as they say, the team we had last year, all those kids got along. They were friends. They hung out together, and we had a really good season. Not as good as we had hoped, but we had a really good season. But the kids like each other and they have fun together. And I talk to the offensive line about it all the time. Until you guys talk and communicate and get together, we're not going to be good. Once you do that, we can be a good offensive line.
You'll see the synergy that happens when guys trust each other and they know each other well. They know what he's going to be doing. I can trust he's going to do what he's supposed to do. Yeah, because it frees you up to just do your job, right? If you're not thinking about, I'm going to have to cover
you guys all have to work together.
Yeah. All right, everybody. So we are now in the Exeter High School weight room, and Coach Swiezynski and Bill Ball are going to give us a little bit of a tour, tell us a little bit about how this came to be, how it's been over the years, if it's changed. But also, maybe we could talk a little bit about what you guys have for expectations for players during the season and then maybe during the off season as well. Because I know that's a big part for the programs I've been involved with, and some are more sort of adamant about it, that guys got to be in the weight room. But I know you guys also preach the, hey, if you're going to play 3 sports, that's great, because we need those athletes too. And you can cut them a little slack, but there's still probably some level of expectation around that. So, why don't you just talk a little bit about that, Coach?
Yeah, back in 2006, they completed the, new high school out here, and we're incredibly fortunate. The community supported the school project. The superintendent was all behind it. Dr. Arthur Hansen, school board. We had this great space. that we really pushed for because we felt it would be great benefit not only to athletics but physical education, all kinds of
Right, because it's not just used by the football team.
no,
We gotta make that clear right away.
adults,
Yeah.
adults, all sports.
Yeah.
It's worked out really well.
Yeah.
So, with that in the space, I have to say that the football boosters and Friends of Exeter Athletics have put a tremendous amount of financial support
Yeah,
toward this weight room, which benefits all students.
right.
1,300 plus, and it's really turned into an active place in this school. Not only after school,
Yeah.
summertime, but
Yeah,
certainly
as we
during-
know, some kids just came through here, summer
No
camps
doubt.
going throughout the high school. And so it sounds like the classic, it takes a village sometimes,
It
right? It's
does.
not just football coaches or it's the whole community has to get behind it.
It does, and
Yeah.
the weight training classes that they teach at the high school are really good. You see kids out, you come through and you see kids in the
Yeah.
middle of the day getting a good workout in,
Yeah.
feeling good about it. So we've been blessed with that. We use it quite a bit in football. Let Skip talk a little bit about that. But we basically, we encourage our guys to play sports. We want them playing lacrosse, baseball, basketball, any swimming, you
Yeah.
name it, track.
Because your three-sport athlete's going to be probably, historically, in my view anyways, they're typically your best athletes because they're just so multi-talented.
They and they've been in pressure situations. They've
Yeah.
been coached by different coaches. So
Right, okay.
when they leave, like if a kid wants to play collegiately, it's good for him to play for multiple coaches. 'Cause
Right.
that's what's going to happen down the road.
Yep.
And but we stop. We take the first 2 weeks after the season's over, and we get them back in, and it's usually senior led. And I'll let Skip talk a little bit about how we start.
Yeah, absolutely.
And go ahead, Coach.
Yeah, so over the years, we've done this many ways. It's always been sort of a 3-day-a-week program during
Yeah.
the school year, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And it was individual coaches would take a day, and but now it's eventually worked to we have a person that runs it. Coach Orchard, Sharon Orchard runs it now and does an unbelievable job of working these kids in the weight room and
Yeah.
doing multiple things, not just the core lifts, but a lot
Yeah.
of different stuff for balance and
Yeah.
bilateral strength and things like that.
So it's not just like the old days where it was the head football coach or the assistants doing it. Now you have trainers and other people that are getting engaged as part of the program.
and
That's good.
So and she does a lot. She does all of it basically.
Yeah. Oh, good.
And a lot of coaches will come through and fill in maybe if she can't be here, but just come in and watch and help and see
Yep.
the kids. And it's good to see the kids in a different environment, not just on the practice
Yeah,
field. They
right.
get to see you. There's a little bit of smiling going
Right,
on occasionally.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too because I've been helping out at Pembroke Academy now, and we have a gentleman named Greg Steelman who's helped in the weight room. He's also a track coach, and that's his background. And now we're getting into he's been willing to dedicate his time volunteering, especially now that school's out. They have a morning session and then an afternoon, so guys can pick one. Because a lot of these kids are working now too. They're working in Market Basket, wherever, and they get these weird shifts. Yeah, and we want to sort of meet them where they're at because we just need numbers. We need people to be working out, and plus it seems to keep that community together, that team camaraderie together. They don't get lost during the summer, and that's a big deal.
No, it's great. We break down even like today. We come in, what we call the tackles, guards, centers, big skill. Big skill. They work and skill. They go out in the field. It's a 50-minute workout both ways with, obviously agilities,
Yep.
endurance. They come in here and get their weight work, and they switch. And like Skip said, we're blessed to have Sharon Orchard as our strength coach. She's
Yep.
really up to date and really sharp with what she's doing. There's different lifts all the time up there. and
Yeah.
She keeps them
so
motivated.
Let's take a little walk around here, and maybe you can talk while we're walking around here. So a lot of equipment, pretty good size space, compared to other schools. You guys seem to have a pretty good program in terms of facilities and things. So you talked about the school and the community getting behind that to really invest in this.
We talked earlier when we were outside before we started that our first weight room was a classroom that we kind of pulled together
right.
in 1995, 96
Yeah.
maybe. and got some equipment, and we had a group that really sort of bought into it. They graduated. They were a class of '98, but they bought into it, and about 14 core kids, Coach.
Yeah, 14.
Yeah, that's really we had success and won the state championship the next year, and then all of a sudden, one leads to another.
Is that something that you guys have found over the years? Because I've seen that, at least in my experience at high school and then at college level at Plymouth State, was if you can get a 3 to 5% core group of guys that do the right things, then it grows from there. Like, you can build a culture around a small amount of number, and I've seen this in like business case studies too, or like
I think
about building culture.
That's how it started with us.
Yeah, I mean, even before the classroom, we lifted on the old gym beyond, on the stage.
Wherever you can, right?
Exactly.
So where there's a will, there's a way.
It was, and but I would say this about that group that Coach referred to is they were a unique group. You know, they didn't win a game as freshmen.
Yep. Okay.
And they bought in, and
they dedicated.
4 years later, they beat BG in '97.
Oh, right.
And,
okay.
In a great championship game, and tough weather, and but it just goes to show you can't judge by how they do is
where they start.
No, it's how you finish.
Yeah.
It's how you finish.
Especially with high school kids, Coach, right? Because kids grow so much in those years. I mean, some kids are like this tall coming into ninth grade, and senior, they're like 6'2". You know, I was 5'7" in ninth grade and going into 10th grade. And then all of a sudden, going into my junior year, I walk in and Coach is like, "What are you're almost 6 feet tall. What happened?" Still only weighed about 135 pounds, but I had the speed, everything sort of caught up, and it was really nice. So you're right. Like, you don't judge a book by its cover, especially when they're young, right? Because you can see potential.
And you see it here. Like, we come in at 7 a.m., hockey comes in at 8:15, girls hockey's in. So you try to develop a really positive athletic culture.
Yeah.
Right. All inclusive.
All a sport. Yeah. Just create that culture of like, this is what we do.
This is
all
what we
sports,
do. Yeah. We work together. Good. We work hard. We support each other.
All right. So this is the 1965 state championship team. And if I'll get close enough here, you can see the classic uniforms with the stripes on the sleeves. And Coach, you were telling me that this team actually, it wasn't just 65, they won 3 in a row.
They won 3 in a row. And the guys on that team are just incredible people. They're all highly successful in their own worlds, and they really have been very, very loyal to the program today.
Yep.
Very thankful.
Do a lot of the guys live in the area still, or do they have
Some
to come
do.
back for
a lot of them are over. They had some guys. I mean, the names of they were etched in Blue Hawk folklore. You got
right.
You got Jason Holder. You got Tommy Kochi, Tommy Tellier. You got I'm going to miss somebody, but Billy Phillips, considered one of the best, one of the great athletes at UNH. Tremendous. All these guys, but they're all tremendous people, and they what stuck with me is when Tommy Kochi passed away, we had a little brief ceremony for him down at the old high school, and they showed up. It was a hot day in July, and that day I just said to I remember leaving there and saying to myself, I can see why these guys are successful to this day.
Pretty tight-knit group.
Brotherhood.
And
they had it.
That's a key word, I think, brotherhood.
They had it. There was no ifs, ands, buts about it. They all have it, and they still do. The ones that are fortunate to be here and doing well, and some have passed on, but they left their legacy for sure.
Well, good. And you say that brotherhood term too, and maybe you and Skip can touch base on this a little bit, or we can talk about it. Because I was just talking with Coach Cameron, and one of the things he talked about was brotherhood on the team, but also amongst coaches. Because he coached with, he was under Kenny Shaka, right? And Gaddy was coaching with him. They were both assistants under him.
And then they moved around. 4-4 under Shaka. That's it.
Right.
No doubt.
And so I'm seeing that, and then the more coaches I talk to, it's like, oh yeah, I coached with him for a few years, and then I went here, and he went there, and it seems like there's a pretty good network, at least from the group of guys in your age group and maybe a little bit younger. Does that still exist though at this stage? Do you still see that? Or is it more?
I think it's less pronounced now. I think it's, and I think that's a lot of everybody. The world's different now.
Yeah.
It's you're texting, right?
Yeah.
Instead of talking, you're texting.
Yes.
It's what are you doing? Everything's on Facebook, and very seldom you sit down and say, hey, let's talk football, which is what you want to do.
Which is what we're doing right here, Coach. Which is why I wanted to do this, because I've seen that now myself, because everything's on Huddle. And
plus,
Coach,
the other part of it is, I was just going to say, it's trading films. When you go to trade films, you meet in Trinity's parking lot, or you meet somewhere,
Well,
and now you're talking about the game and the teams and the players,
and then you're giving little sort of nuggets,
whatever. But you're actually seeing people face to face, like Coach said, you don't really see that now. You don't see them as like you would before.
It's all just technology. It's through technology.
Someone requests it, you send it.
You can do it. We get people to do that. I hear you, Coach.
And it's so crazy because now it's like the game gets over. We have that tape within 40 minutes, right?
Yeah.
It's right there. And
you can even pay to get it broken down for you to some degree.
You pay to have it broken down, and then everybody wants it. And by Saturday morning, it's out. Back in the old days,
the whole team's watching it.
Back in the old days, you'd meet like Jack Gaddy halfway, and after the JV game, and get his film, then come back and break it down.
At the Hooks at Toll booth or something, the rest.
When I first started, Coach has been around a little bit longer than I have, but the 16 millimeter film that you had to send out and had to get sent back to you.
Well, that's what Coach Cameron was saying yesterday.
But click.
And then he'd be like, oh, I get home, and then I open it, and I'm like, it's the wrong film. It's like last year's or something against that team. But he also said, this is interesting too, he also said, he misses the camaraderie of going to scout, which they all did in person back then. He was like, nothing better than playing on a Friday night, but then Saturday, putting your jacket on, going and stay in the end zone of one of your upcoming opponents, and surely you would run into other coaches, and then you just start talking, right? It was like that brotherhood, and you would share. And I was telling him, like, last year I went to, we played in the Jamboree in Manchester at Gill Stadium preseason, and I stayed after because I wanted to just stay in the end zone and watch the teams that were playing, because we were going to play them that year, and watch them West and stuff. And I just had a flashback to high school, because Coach Gaddy and Cameron would always encourage the players to do it too, and we did it. And I was standing there and I'm like, wow, on Huddle you don't get the in between plays stuff where you're watching the kid and you're seeing how he responded to getting burnt for a touchdown, or how he's responding to his coach talking to him. And you're like seeing that little stuff that you don't get in the film.
How they handle success and failure.
Because I was going back and saying, wow, Coach, this one kid, he's really fast. If you see him in person, he's going to cause us some trouble. You don't see it on film. Or it was like, this kid put his head down and he took himself out of the game 4 plays in. You just don't get that anymore.
It's much different seeing teams in person.
It helps. It helps great.
How fast is that? How fast are they? What do they do? Whatever. It's just little things like
quarterback,
that.
right?
And you're close. You're right in the end zone typically, and you move around.
You got to evaluate the decision maker, and that's always not. It's better in person.
Yeah.
You can see his demeanor. You can see, you know, how he reacts.
How's he really managing the game?
Manage the game. All of a sudden, there's a fumble. Does he have his head down after somebody fumbles?
Right.
Or does he just, let's go.
Yep. Yeah. So. Or you're just watching the kid who may not even be in the play. He's like a backside corner. He kind of takes the play off if it's rolling away or whatever. And you're like, okay, maybe we'll go after that kid for a couple plays.
No question.
Yeah. So that's interesting. Good. So you'll see some of that in Coach Cameron's video this weekend, because he talked a lot about that, and he tied it in too with coaching at the Shrine game and the Chad game, because that was like, you just go, and he always loved going to talk, especially at the Shrine games where you go away for the week or two, and going into the kids' rooms at night and just talking football with the other coaches, because he could just learn so much about all these other teams. You know, he would just pick their brains a little bit, and we all thought it was like the same on every team, and then you realize, like, oh no, these coaches are all different. So that's good. So I just want to check out a couple more of these things. So this is the 1997 team, and I'll try to get a little closer here for everybody. But
that's a great group.
This year, Jason Holy talked about a team that he played at the 60. He came back and talked to those kids before the year.
Yeah, Jason did that, and Jamie Sala, the captain with the ball in the middle there. He's a assistant principal here at the high school.
Yeah.
Right now he's going to take a principalship somewhere else. But went on to play at Bates.
Yep.
Really captain at Bates, captain here.
So you were saying is that the team that really decided as like freshmen they were going to dedicate the time
They
in the
did.
weight room and grow?
It was like 13 of them.
And they had a pretty rough early seasons.
Didn't
right?
win a game. Didn't
Right.
win a game and didn't come close. And but they stayed with it and they left their mark really, really well.
All right, very
I
cool.
think
Very
two
cool.
of the kids off that team coach with us now.
Yep.
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 So that's interesting too. So I assume over the years you've had multiple players that have come and helped out for a few years and moved on or
right
or
now.
stayed
Yeah.
for.
Yeah, we get a lot now. I mean, I'd say five or six
Yeah.
at least. Murph and
Yep.
Matt Caraciola and Yorkie and Cal.
Make care-
and you.
Matt-
One more.
Carashola.
Yes.
Yeah, he played up at Plymouth.
Yes, he
I played with him. Yeah.
He
and
could bring it.
And he had a son that just graduated
Yes, Harry.
recently, right?
Harry.
Good player too.
Very good player.
Yeah.
Great fan.
Yeah, we called him Carrots. He was a
That's
good
it.
friend. We were on the same defense. He could bring it, is right. He had a good attitude too.
Yeah.
I liked playing with him.
Yeah.
He was great. See, small world, man. Even now, this one? I know you guys are doing a little bit of renovations here, so it's down on the wall.
Yeah,
but-
that's 2003 versus Winnicott at home. What stands out about that
got
is,
the catch.
yeah, it's Brett Coffey, and he makes a catch with a cast on his right arm.
He's got a broken wrist.
Oh.
He's got a broken wrist.
Yeah, the right arm.
Yeah, he got a broken wrist, and he makes a big play.
Not going to keep him out of the game,
No,
coach. are ya?
no, he didn't stay out. He didn't stay out, and that whole team was really, really good team.
And you got a standing room only crowd on the
Yeah,
sidelines.
back to the old field. Look at it, packed up there, rallied around. It's pretty good. Great memories in that field.
So Winnicott's your like rival.
That's the
It's the
rival.
big game of the
That's the
year.
rival.
That's always a big game.
Yeah.
And both towns show up.
No doubt.
No matter where it's at.
Yeah.
It's
And it's usually a nice fall day.
Yeah,
100 years this year, is that right?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Okay, so the story behind this one scores 14-17 Exeter at the time, but it looks like someone's going into the end zone.
Overtime.
Overtime against BG,
Yeah.
Bishop
I
Girton.
think third down, right? Third down.
Yeah, that's the,
Yeah.
one.
Third and one. And
So- He had the ball, or
33 is the lead blocker. Matty Walsh, 21
Yep.
was the halfback.
yep.
Both went on to play in college.
And again, you got the crowd right on the edge of the back of the end zone.
Oh, it was awesome.
It's awesome.
Whole field.
That's I used to love. Not many people love going to play at Spalding in Rochester, but I loved it because they let the fans stand right on the sidelines. Like you
What's
get close to the
much-
sidelines, you're hearing stuff.
Oh,
from
yeah.
What's nice about this is that Skip put a tweak in on the offensive line for this,
Okay.
and they got the look and they called it and they executed it really well. It was amazing.
And the hole opened up. And,
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
They did it. You know, he put it in during the week. If you see this, do this, and they
Yeah.
were mature enough to make that
Recognize
adjustment.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a pretty big halfback you got leading up through there.
Yeah.
And Burbank played it tough, and
Yeah, well, I think Walsh is kicking out and Burbank's getting the ball.
Yeah. Very cool.
But someone's going to talk.
A lot of guys.
It doesn't matter.
A lot of guys.
just Walsh right there carrying the ball. You know what? No, I
Selling
know
out.
who Walsh was carrying the ball. He kept it.
He kept it.
He did. He told me they kept it. It's good for you.
All right. All right. Very good. Well, let's head back outside, guys.
It does look good. Right? Yes, but Walsh, he kept it. I remember him saying.
All right. Yeah, so now that we're back outside and we can walk around over by the field, maybe sit down. So let's talk a little bit about the tradition here. You know, if Exeter is pretty well known for having some pretty good traditions, and by that I mean, yes, you have the big game every year against Winnicott and that thing, but also just the team traditions, like the infamous wearing your helmet on the bus thing, and like maybe you can talk a little bit like how did that all come to be?
Well, you know, I can go back a little bit, but I know, you know, Larry Stone, legendary coach down at Taft School in Taft, Connecticut, and
Yep.
was here. And he had a great run in the 50s. And Charlie Birch had a really good run in the 60s. And then Dick Eustis took over.
Okay. Yep.
And he was here for 22 years. He had a great run. And it's funny with the helmets, is that's just the way Coach Eustis did it.
Yep.
And like Skip will tell you, we don't say a word. They just
So it just happens.
They
Guys
just-
hand it down
they get
season
on
to season.
It's just they get on the bus, and that's what it is.
Yep.
And
So it's helmets all the way to the playing field.
well, if you go to Keene, you have to be smart.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a long.
Take it
Hey,
in-
everybody, it's a long ride from Exeter to Keene, New Hampshire.
Taking the
You gotta be
the heat
yeah.
the heat deal too. So
But
Yeah.
that's good. So that's probably a lot about too. Hey, locking in. Let's go. Let's lock in. It's game
Locking
day.
in. And you know what?
None of the stuff on the bus. Guys chatting about all kinds of other stuff, distractions.
No, it does lock them in, and it's funny like that. It's
Yeah.
a lot of things have changed in the world, and some of those things, those traditions. Our guys, they certainly have earphones, but they don't play music before a game. They have their.
Yep.
I'm sure they do on their earphones.
Yep.
That's their business, and but it's pretty business-like on
Yeah.
game day.
Is there other things like that here that are sort of unique to Exeter?
Well, I think that the help. I mean, Skip, you can help here a little bit, but
I was listening to Coach Gaddy's thing. We sounded
Yeah.
fairly similar, to tell you.
Yeah.
It's a physical game, and we practice was a physical and work hard, and so I remember coaching one year, and we played a team, Newport, in the playoffs, and their music's blaring and going crazy, and I'm like, these guys aren't ready to play. Well, that was a big mistake. They were. I mean, we ended up beating them, but
So they had a
that's just
different
kinda-
way.
yeah,
that
just a
was their
different-
tradition, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And our kids just don't do
Yep.
that. The seniors take
Yeah.
control of the locker room, and
Yep.
you can hear them say, "Hey, knock it off." And
Guys know, right?
That's
right?
they
how
know.
we focus
Yeah.
in, and that's how we get ready to play.
And that's
it's been
interesting
successful
too,
for us.
right? Because I experienced that going from Concord to, again, Plymouth State in a very different environment. Totally, a lot of Mass kids up there. I was shocked when I got there. I was like thinking it was going to be like 80% New Hampshire kids. It was like 80% Massachusetts guys.
Right.
So it was really cool to see a lot of these guys in Maine and everything else. And it was just different. They're coming from different backgrounds and everything. And of course, you're now with 120 guys at the beginning of the year instead of 60 like high school, or if you're lucky, 60. And it was just cool to see how those traditions change. And then the head coach certainly and the other coaches have a big influence on that and expectations. And I was playing under Lou Deloge at first, and then Don Brown came in my senior year. And talking about a change in just approach and how he coached versus, Deloge and the great staff he had too. It neither was right or wrong. It was just different, and as a player, seeing that contrast was pretty interesting for me to see in hindsight.
well,
Like, wow.
Donnie's so hands-on, right?
Yeah.
And here we go. Let's go get.
Oh yeah. And he was very disciplined in
Yeah.
terms of like you had to know. There was a lot of like quizzing, like what are you doing here? What are you doing here? Like that was so you knew like you had to study because you could get questioned at any time. And I
No
was the
doubt.
free safety calling the
There you go.
coverages, and it was like my head was spinning half the time because we always played man to man most of my first 3 years. It was like easy. We were coming after you and we'll play man to man and let the cards fall where they may. And then Coach Brown comes in with all these schemes and different based on it was like okay, but in hindsight it helped. It made me prepare more, maybe get even more disciplined. But I think that's something that all these coaches have talked about is these are skills. These are skill sets that they'll use in life, right? Like that's a lot of people don't see that football is very unique in that way. It's not like baseball, where it's a much slower pace, and you got your individual guy that has to bat, and then he's in the field, he's an individual. In football, it's like 11 guys have to do the right thing every single play, every 30 seconds.
Right. I would say another thing you talked about being a little different, unique. The one thing we do, and I'm a great believer in it, is our seniors clean the locker room. Our seniors pick up the pennies. Our seniors pick up the balls. They do it.
Yeah.
And it's not like sophomores do that. No.
Right.
You show the sophomores how it's done. So when they're seniors,
They're doing it.
they're doing it. And it's not you're 15 years old, you carry this for me. No, we don't do that.
Right.
Seniors do it all.
Right.
And that leads into, I think one of the things we've been blessed with over the years, and we've had kids come out, and this year we're counting on it, is to have great senior leadership, not just captains, senior leadership.
Yeah.
Guys that have been in the program for 4 years, that this is my chance. Let's go.
Yeah.
And you can get a lot out of kids like that.
Yeah. And that's good, right? That's like the sort of servant leadership model, where the guys at the top are actually serving the younger guys.
That's what it is.
Because that can turn real negative for younger guys, right? Because you've probably seen those teams where it almost turns into hazing.
Yes.
That's why they had to do away with a lot of the old hazing, because it often got out of hand and
Right.
turned it into a negative. And next thing you know, oh, that kid's not showing up to practice anymore.
Right.
Because he
Yeah.
was getting beat up on in terms of, oh, I'm a freshman, you got to do this. So
make your seniors accountable.
yeah.
Let them
Good.
lead.
Good. So what other things, though, over the years have you seen maybe change, other than, a lot of the teams have nice fields like this and turf and stuff. And by the way, turf or grass, what's the preference for you guys?
Well,
Where would you rather play on?
I love the old field at the high school, the pitcher's mound in the infield.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you that,
Like the old Gill Stadium.
yeah, when it's right. But when
Like when we played Trinity in
stuff-
87.
the benefit of this is everybody can use it. All the
Yeah.
sports.
Less maintenance.
Well, as it was explained to me, what happens here when you have this turf, you save your other fields.
yeah.
You don't beat up your other fields when it's raining.
Right.
You're on the
Right.
turf.
So you
And-
can have the other fields be grass like you have around here.
So as far as
Yeah.
from a usage standpoint, and
Yep.
it's great. It's good stuff. It really is.
yeah.
But
Good.
we live over there in the practice field. That's where we're most happy.
Yeah.
Way over.
Well, so why don't we just walk over that way if we can?
Okay.
Is that gate open over
I
there?
get a key if it's not.
Or we can go without this one,
We can go out
I
this
guess.
gate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what other things do you do traditionally, like beginning of the season? Is there those team meetings? Do you set expectations? Is it in writing, or how is that all handled?
Yeah, I mean, we do, and we're very big on treating every game as one. Okay, we don't come out and say we're going to do this. Our goal right now is to win the opener. Our goal right now, every day, is to beat Timberlane, to be prepared for Timberlane, and then you treat every game like that. And I think when you do that and you don't get ahead of yourself,
Right.
you tend to win games.
Yeah.
A lot of games.
Yep. And I've been listening to a lot of the sort of the Nick Saban stuff, and he talks about the standard and practicing to the standard, whatever that
Yes.
is. So the guys know, like, whether you're up by 10 or down by 10, you're still playing to the standard. There shouldn't be any change in how you're playing. If you're playing as hard as you can and know what your goals are and all those things, then you tend to end up with more wins.
Right. And it's funny, I was reading an article last week about, time management and length of practice time and length of games. And the article basically said that, if you have a 2.5 hour practice, okay, obviously you're not going to hit for 2.5 hours. You're not going to be, you're teaching. But they said, you got to condition your kids, because they're going to be out there 2.5 hours on Friday nights. And both physically and mentally, and they have to be accustomed to that. You just can't
show up.
Everything can't be a walkthrough.
Yeah, right.
It just can't.
So do you guys do stuff right at pace, like game speed, as they call it?
Yeah,
even during practice.
Yeah, I think
pretty frequent.
We're active up front, live up front, and we don't tackle the ball.
Like
carriers.
live to the ball.
Live to the ball, up high. Everything's high.
Yep. Yeah, and that's the thing. It is funny too, Coach, because back in our day, we were more live to the whistle, even in practice sometimes.
No.
But you end up getting a lot of injuries, right?
That's what you do, and you can't afford it. And
so
it's
you
all,
have to be smart.
It's all about safety, and it should be. And
Yep.
And we're a lot more educated today than we were 40 years ago.
So there's nothing against the old time. It was just we know a lot more about head injuries and all those things.
Everything.
And,
the ground's hard.
Yeah.
That's what most injuries occur on the ground, whiplash stuff and stuff like that. That's where they happen.
Yeah. So I assume this is just the garage for
This
the
is
facilities
This is
maintenance and all that.
This is our groundskeeper's facility. Frankie, right here. Varsity baseball out there, softball in the middle, and JV softball and practice football to the far right over here.
Yep. Now I've noticed at least too when we met prior, you seem to know everybody. You just said Frankie, the maintenance
He's right.
guy. Everybody's part of the team, I assume, in your view.
All in, everybody.
School administration.
Yeah, very, very blessed that way. Yep.
Yeah.
Very much.
So what we're doing, folks, we're walking back towards all the other fields here at Exeter, and you can see the grass. But this is what Coach was talking about with you save a lot of these fields by having a turf field as your main field that you can play a lot of games on.
No
on
question,
game day.
especially on bad weather. Right.
And as Skip knows from the '88 championship game, there was a ton of games played at Memorial Field, our home field, that week prior to the football game, and it was a mud bowl for the most part.
Yeah.
The middle of the field was just
We
really
played
not the best.
Trinity one year when I was at Exeter, and their Gill Stadium, when you talked about earlier, was just a mess. One end of the field was completely, and that kind of played into our
Did
game
Because they had the old school all dirt infield, right? In the baseball field was like half into the football field.
I wasn't sure they were going to play that day, and I was hoping we would. And
it snowed, I think.
yeah, the chairman of the football committee, Ed Thibodeau, back then, he was there and met with the officials and play ball.
Yeah,
And it was a good day for the Hawks. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, there you go. Good.
This is our practice field out here. It's great. The freshman practice field's on the other side of the school.
Yep.
And this is a great area for us just to come out here and.
So these facilities, they've probably changed a little bit over the years. You got the new turf field, you got track and all that, but the athletics stay the same, right? The fundamentals about teamwork, working hard, doing all those things in the off season, that really hasn't changed over the years in your mind. Is that correct?
It is correct.
Yeah.
And I think certainly there's a lot more emphasis probably on in-season lifting now. If we play on a Saturday, we lift twice a week. If we play on a Friday night, we lift 3 times a week. That doesn't mean heavy, but
maintenance.
Yeah,
maintenance
what you've done
lifting,
all year long, what we're doing in the summer every day, you don't want to lose it.
Yeah. Because guys will atrophy during the year. You're not lifting, you're losing it.
Prevention as well does all that for you.
No doubt.
Good. All right, so as we head back over that way, maybe we can talk a little bit about some of your memories of certain seasons and things. And I know you guys have been coaching a long time, and you don't want to miss any guys or prioritize ones, but I'm sure you have some seasons that stood out over the years for whatever reason. Maybe you didn't even win a state championship, but what, in your guys' mind, what were some of those years that just stand out for whatever reason?
Well, I'd be remiss not to mention back in 1995, actually December 5th, 1995, we lost our captain-elect, David Kugel, a great young man from a great family in Kensington. He had a congenital heart issue after school.
Oh, okay.
Right after the banquet, he was elected captain, and he passed. And
oh, wow.
A lot of people, and I wouldn't argue it, think our program took a turn that day.
Okay.
We got to the championship game, had an incredible win against Dover during the regular season. They were loaded. They won it. They beat us in the championship. And then we won the next 2. We're in the finals, 99 and 2000. So that was was such a tragic time to lose such an incredible young man from a great family. But I'd be remiss.
A lot of good came out of it.
Not to mention that guy.
Yeah.
And his whole family, just a wonderful kid and wonderful family. So that to me stands out as much as anything in the program in the 47 years I've been doing it. It's as much as anything.
And what about you, Skip? Any years that? Well, maybe not even just here.
I was going to say, I pretty much echo that. In '96, when our team Coach talks about incredible win against Dover. It was basically what got us into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Without that win, we don't get in. So I guess always kind of the first one you remember but they're also individual, and you can talk
Yeah.
about each team in different ways, and
Yep.
the kids on the team and how they came together. But the one common denominator, I believe, and Coach had talked about earlier, when kids get along and like each other, we
Yeah.
do well.
The synergy, and yep, you can definitely feel a difference on teams where the guys genuinely like each other.
No doubt, no doubt. It's how they treat each other, and again, it goes back to that servant leadership, right?
Yeah.
It all comes back to that. If the seniors are, hey, pick this up. I didn't drop it, you did, and we don't
Yep.
do that. You pick it
Yeah.
up, okay?
Yeah.
These custodians work hard. You clean
Yeah.
up after yourself.
They take the younger guys under their wing a little bit.
They do,
Right?
and
They're
I
telling them
think
the little things like, "Hey, work on your stance."
Well, yeah, working your stance,
Whatever it may be, yeah.
Because and I think Jack said it. It's physical, and but it comes down to fundamentals. It
Yeah.
does. I mean, hey, you either block destruction and tackling
Yep.
defensively.
Right.
You got to get off blocks and you got to tackle.
Yeah.
You can be the best.
It's-
You can be the best cover corner in the world, but if they run
Yeah.
toss sweep and you're not covered up and squeezed in the alley, there's
Yeah.
a problem.
Right. Right.
So that's.
So as much as the game changes in terms of offenses and
Sure.
new things, the fundamentals
Right.
still exist. Blocking
Yeah.
and tackling, block destruction is like you
No
said.
doubt, and I
Can't
would,
get around that.
I would say this, that with all the spread teams and the people are 2x2, they're 3x1, they're quads, they're empty. With all those teams doing that, at the end of the day, when you chart it, most of them are trying to get you to leave a light box inside and run the ball.
Yeah.
That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to remove people from the box.
Yep.
They're counting, and they're going to
Open up,
run their
get a
zone.
mismatch
They're
in
gonna
the
run their
middle.
zone
Yeah.
play.
In the
Correct.
box, right. And that's a little bit of what we do at Pembroke Academy is single back, spread it out, try to isolate some guys on defense,
Right.
get them to start cheating.
Sure.
Cheating to the flat, linebacker's cheating. He's getting out there too quick. He's
Right.
thinking every play's a pass play.
Right.
Then you run the inside.
Yeah, you get them out of phase, right?
And everybody brings him back in, and then you do it
Yeah.
all over again, right?
Right.
It's a chess match.
Yeah. Now that's fascinating. And in terms of seasons and things, I think at one point, Coach, you mentioned there was a game. Was it shortly after your mother passed
It
away?
was 2002
Yeah, so-
championship. Yeah, we beat Dover in an incredible game. Last second field goal, last 40 seconds, right? 48-yarder. Bad weather. Made it by
A
an
48-yard field goal.
inch. Yeah, Brad Rowe hit it. Soccer player,
Yeah.
longtime Stratham family. He hit that, and I can remember it was fourth down, and I think he said to me, Brad said to me, he goes, "Coach, I can make this." I was, well, we had a great comeback going. We had tied it up. We were down.
Yep.
And he did.
Yeah.
He did. And that was the day after we had my mother's service on a Friday. So that was special. And
Yeah.
that was huge. That was I always say my mother gave that ball, made it by an inch, a little added impetus.
yeah,
Just a little shove.
Yep.
And,
Good.
yeah,
Good.
That forever. That and certainly, the David's situation and
Yeah.
December 5th in 95. Those things, they stand out because sometimes things like that tend to bring out the best in people and we don't even know it.
Yeah.
The kids,
Yep.
I go back to that 95 year and this kid, Casey Kruger, I mean, he was the captain now and he was just incredible how he treated people.
Yeah.
He's just really kind, but physical and,
Yep.
but a good guy,
Yeah.
Well,
And sometimes you don't see it at the time. Like you see it a year later or 5 years later. Then you look back and reflect on the kid who you saw from 9th grade to 12th grade, and you pause a little bit. Because I know sometimes as a coach, you're like, you're going full 100% throughout the season. You don't really
Right.
get to catch your breath sometimes, and then you look back and like, oh yeah, at the beginning of the season, that kid didn't even know where to line up. By the end of it, I'm thinking he might be all state in 2 years,
Right.
or next year. Like those are great things, right?
And I think one of the things as a coach, and we talk about all the time, is if you really do a self-evaluation and self-reflection, how much better are you halfway through the season? You should be better. You should be.
Yeah.
I say it all the time. Certain teams, all of a sudden you get these teams that are 2-4, and they're close and they're getting better. And then, guess what? That's a fallacy. That 2-4. Right now they're a 4-2 team.
Right. Right.
So you better be ready. So just don't go by what the union leader says.
Yeah, and I think that happened with our '87 team because we started 1-2, and then we had a few wins in a row. Then we lost to Nashua, and then it was like we limped into the playoffs. We got the last spot, beating Dover, last game of the season. And we were 6-3, and it was just they're just lucky to get in, but we were like really peaking. We talk about synergy and
we
stuff.
We always talked about Jack's teams. Always getting better as the year. When you played them at the end of the year, you better be.
And that was coaches Jack Gaddy's second year at Concord, so we were like the year before he got there we were like 2-6 or something. Then we were 4-4 his first year, and it was with the T, and a lot of guys had to learn that. Very different, and you had to win a lot of guys over. But once we started winning, they said, okay, if I work hard at this, we can win some games. Right. And then guys start getting more into practice, and then everything just starts to really snowballs, right? So then all of a sudden you're in the playoffs, and you're taking on the team that might be undefeated, who glided into the playoffs, right? And thinking they're all that. Right. So as a coach, though, do you have to caution your teams about that, not getting too big of heads if you're like 6-0 heading into we're playing 3-3 so-and-so this week?
I mean, we were lucky last year. We were 10-0, and we lost a heartbreaker out here, 31-28 in the last play of the game. But that group, you didn't have to tell them. Certain groups, they're mature enough. Yeah. And that group was mature enough to say, look, we know what we're in for. It's going to be a battle. Let's go. And it was. Right, and that,
so as much as, 10-0 and then losing, painful, right? Yeah. But I'm sure in hindsight, you're looking back at it and saying, yep, and that's why we play the game. Because there's no guarantees. Football is that game where a fumble, a bad snap can change the whole game, right? Or a big run, like Matt Manna had against us in first half in my senior year. But we came back and we could have won, but we fumbled on the 6, and then Trinity did what they needed to do, and kid kicks a long field goal as a sophomore. But that's why you play the game. We tell our guys that all the time. Like any given day, you got to be ready. I don't care what their record is. I don't care what their history is.
Doesn't matter.
But if we've worked hard enough and we paid the dues, then the outcome, we have a chance. That's all we need.
And that's why you have to be singular in my mind and you focus. Our focus is Timberland. That's it.
Yep.
There's nothing else right now. We don't.
And then you turn the page after the game's over, right? Who's next?
Hopefully, well, if not, either way, you got to get better.
Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah. Win or lose. And win or lose. Because you got to lose. You got to learn from those losses, right?
And I think the other thing that I always talk about is you can get complacent winning too. You tend not to focus on, winning cures a lot. It really shouldn't.
Right.
If you really do a self-analysis and you really break it down, you got to look at it and say, look at what are other people looking at our film saying. Yeah. Right.
Right.
We get an issue here. We get an issue in the Big App. We got to fix that.
Yeah, because good coaches will exploit that,
they
right?
Will.
They'll pick up on those things, and especially for teams that are like really good, and they may blow out some teams early in the year, and their starters are out in the third quarter, right? Oh, I as a coach, you want to get the younger guys some playing time, but at the same time, it's like, oh, they're not getting a full game, and next thing you know, they're out at halftime because they're up 32 whatever at half.
And the next week they're in a dogfight.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
Against a team whose their starter's been on the field the whole day, every day.
Ready to go.
Like, I think Trinity, you guys had some games that you came back. You had some really good games and you won them to get into the playoffs. But I think about it, your guys, all your starters were in probably most of the time, right? Yeah. And that probably helped. So that's interesting. Those are interesting dynamics that coaches have to think about, because as I've gotten into coaching more, I'm starting to realize, like, there's a heck of a lot more than just knowing your X's and O's. You got to be a psychologist. You got to be a therapist. You got to be a guy who knows history. you got to be a guy that understands schemes and how teams operate, study a lot of film.
And your contact with the kids is year round now. I mean, even if they're not in the weight room, they're playing basketball. You show up, you support them playing basketball. You show up, you support them playing baseball, lacrosse. Talk to them afterwards. Hey, it's a partnership.
Yeah.
It's a partnership.
And you said earlier on when we met last, you used the word relationships, and that's everything, right? Yeah, like you're building relationships with those young guys.
If you don't have that, you have nothing.
Yeah,
nothing.
Yeah, and do you find too that knowing young kids and different backgrounds and introvert, extrovert, all those things, do you find, like I was talking with Coach Cameron about. Usually there's one coach on the team the kid can relate to, and it's important for the coaches to pick up on that, because some guys, will shy away from the loud, coach who's more in people's faces, and then a softer one can come up next to the kid
no
and
doubt
say, hey, how you doing, right? So that's a big piece too. Is that something you've seen over the years that's rings true year in and year out?
I think that's huge, and the one thing I always try to tell the coaches, and if there's a disagreement on the field or something, someone gets corrected and they're uncomfortable, you always talk to the kid after practice about the situation. You say, look, here, boom, boom, I corrected you this for that, and it's in your best interest.
Yeah.
And don't take it personally.
Yeah.
I'm only
if
I'm talking to you,
a little sharp.
It's a good reason.
Yeah,
it's
right.
a good reason.
Well, that's the thing. So tying up the loose ends after, so the kid knows that you weren't just yelling for the sake of yelling.
Yeah,
and there's a reason for this.
You might get somebody that's really sensitive, and you say, look at you say, led with the wrong foot, and you can't do anything right. No, you can't. But here's what we're trying to tell you. And, it's not whether you're a straight tee, Delaware wing tee, or a split back veer.
Single wing.
Yeah, single wing, or 4.25 or 3.4. It's not.
Yeah.
It's everyone can do that. Some people, I think, teach it better than others.
Yep.
But I think the end of the day it's the relationship.
Yeah.
And every kid's different, Some kids need to kind of be their voice raised to them, and other kids need to walk over, put your arm around them, and say, hey, and you just got to figure out who those kids are. You know what you need to do, and like he'll say, I don't, no, just I need to talk to him. He'll be fine. Just talk to him, So.
Because you need all of them, right? And you want all of them to be on the team, and you want them to get that experience in recognizing that kids respond differently to different techniques and everything. So that's super important.
And the nice thing is our guys come back. They come back. They visit. They email. They call. They write. They show up at games. Then you go to weddings and they're there, and different things, and golf outings, and they all remember. And
so
that's really
let's
good.
talk about that for a second, because between the two of you, we're probably talking 60 plus years of coaching, 70 maybe. So is there days that go by that you don't?
47 there.
Are there days that where
90.
You can probably have weeks on end where almost daily you're running into somebody in the community, or if you're out and about going to the shopping or whatever, where you just run into somebody.
There's no
like
doubt.
Me and you at Pembroke, you were
refereeing.
You were refereeing lacrosse. I'm like,
hey,
Coach Ball doing up.
I was refereeing last week, 2 weeks ago at Hooks at middle school, and all of a sudden there's Bobby Cameron.
Right.
Watching his grandson play. Hey, Billy. I say, hey, that's how it works. And,
and there's something to that, Coach. There's something about spending a lifetime, and I'm getting a little emotional because it's so important to kids.
Yeah. It is. It's everything. And
well, I say when I see a kid like walking down the street, and this not a kid anymore, this kid Corey Pebble stops his car, gets out.
Right.
And that's why you get
takes
in.
the time to stop, right?
Yeah.
Hey, there's Coach.
That's why you got into it.
Yeah.
When I go home, I go, that's why I got into coaching and teaching.
Yeah.
That's why. I mean, the winning is great. Trust me, I'd rather be 12-0 than 0-12. But that's why, because my coaches impacted me.
Yeah. And I think that's it. Because I was just thinking about Coach Gaddy and Coach Cameron and the guys that I was blessed to have as coaches, and realizing too that when I was with them, they were all pretty young, so they were pretty wise as young guys, but they got that from other coaches, right? The guys that mentored them.
Kenny Shocker.
Yeah. So it's just fascinating. So I hope you guys know that and feel that and hear it, and it sounds like you do, that you've probably impacted more lives than you know. And since you've been coaching so long, I was doing a little bit of the math, it's probably well over 2,000 kids that you've coached over 30 whatever years it is, right? Because if you average like 50 kids a year roughly, 10 years is 500.
Right.
So so you could do the math. So, but that's fascinating because that's such an impact on the community too. Yeah, good and bad. Not everybody turns, guys take different routes in life, right?
No,
some end up in bad places and others go on to do great things. And we know that decisions and choices play into it. And sometimes life just happens, right? And accidents happen. And
I think the interesting thing is sometimes the kids you're toughest on are the kids that maybe appreciated you the most. When there's a few kids out there, that say, Coach, you were tough, but you know what, I needed that. Or and Coach Ball can be tough at times on kids.
Yeah, so everybody has to. At some point, you have to be right.
Tough on the kid
because it's like Coach Gaddy said. That's love.
That's love.
Structure.
And they come back and they appreciate it in the long run because life lessons, right?
So, in some of the videos, you can comment on YouTube and stuff, and the comments that have been up there, they're not about where we ended up that season. They're thank you for putting this up. Coach Levine changed my life, and I wouldn't be who I am today without him. That type of stuff, right? So that's why I'm doing this. Like that's what occurred to me was like, no, this isn't about football. This is about guys, coaches imparting into the young men's lives at a very impactful stage of their life too.
It's about life.
Yeah. I
think the interesting thing you'll see, and this is my opinion, Coach may have a different opinion, I think a lot of the younger guys that are coaching now won't last as long as many coaches have because of it's just changed.
Yeah.
Things have changed.
And it's harder to connect with kids at times, and also, it does seem to be a little bit more exclusively focused on wins and losses. Right. It's hard for coaches to coach as long as you guys have.
Because can be tough on
and administration coaches. And who knows who has influence in the community or in the administration who suddenly says, hey, I think it's time for a change. We went 4-5 last year, even though you got 6 state championships or whatever, right? Because we just need to change for the sake of change, right? We need new blood in this, But I don't know. I think programs like yours, like some of the others that around the state, I think those long-term coaches that have had such an impact is such a beautiful thing because it's just, you just see it over time, decades, and generational impact on kids. Not take anything away from the guys who get into football and only coach for a few years and maybe life changes, they have kids and they just make some personal choices. But I think the long-time coaches that have played in, whether they stayed at one or like Coach Levine, who's coached all over the place and at the college level, and he goes, but he's been successful wherever he goes. So the recepe's there. He's just applying the recipe to wherever he goes, right?
He's got that it, what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't necessarily describe it, but he's got that it. That he attracts kids, and the kids like him, and he can be tough, but the kids love that.
Yeah, you don't put a number on him, an age number. He's
I might have to do a follow-up 10 years from now.
No, he's great. He's such high
in great
energy.
shape.
He's just awesome. He's incredible.
Coach, he's got energy.
No, but he's always been the same, too. He's always been just a gentleman and fundamentally sound. That's when I think of Paul Levine, I mean, fundamentally just sound guy.
And you know that as an opposing coach because you have to prepare against guys that, right? Like that was what Coach Gaddy said was, hey, when he was younger as a head coach, he was like, man, I'm going against some of these legends at his time, right? Like these guys have been doing this for a long time. I got to prepare. I can't mess around. And I'm sure you guys see that same thing. And now people are probably doing that. Oh, we got to go play Exeter. We better be prepared because Paul.
When you talk about Paul Levine, he was the head coach when they beat us my senior year in high school. And if you do, what is he 75? Is that the number?
He's 82.
Oh, 82.
Okay. He doesn't look it.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't look it.
Yeah.
He looks amazing. But, hope I look that good at 82.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've watched the whole video yet, but he had great praise for you, man. One of the best athletes he's ever seen because You were great.
Yeah, you can
and,
say nice things because he
carried
beat
the
us.
ball. Yeah, yeah, you can. That's right.
No, he's a great
We
guy.
had- We had such good laughs, and the thing I'm picking up too by doing these, and I knew you guys, but I didn't know you that well. But this has been a pretty easy conversation, and that's, I think, is something special too, because we can connect at a very interesting level because of the shared experiences, and football is the conduit. Football is the thing that pulls us all together, and like Cameron was saying the other day, was you can actually run into someone you don't even know, like on a plane or something, and you just start, hey, did you play football? And next thing you know, you got a 3-hour conversation with somebody about their experience. So it's really cool. I'm sure that happens with other sports, but football seems to be a little bit different because it's such a big team. It's not just 10 guys or 12 guys like baseball.
60,
and
70 guys. And,
yeah. And they're together 3 years, and
They all got to work together.
yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, so as we wrap up here, guys, what would you say, and I've been asking all the coaches this, so what would you say to a young coach getting into coaching football? What would you say to a freshman getting into his freshman year about things to expect, or what you would say, hey, prioritize these things? And then finally, what do you hope your legacy is? And this is a hard one, and I always look at it this way, not necessarily after you're dead and gone, we don't have to go there, but 5-10 years from now, your name comes up in mixed company at a party or something, or whatever. What do you hope people are saying about you and your legacy?
Yeah, well, your first part, a young player,
Yeah.
I would say that don't let early doubts cloud your vision.
Yep.
You stay with your goal. Things change incredibly so in 2 or 3 years. Kids get bigger, they get stronger, they get faster, they find a niche. Don't doubt yourself. Have confidence in yourself. You can do it. People think you have to be big to play this game. You know what? You have to have a big heart.
Right.
A big heart.
Yeah.
And my advice to a fledgling coach would be relationships before plays. If you develop a relationship, no matter what you run, they'll run it well for you.
Yeah. Good.
And as far as how you want to be remembered, just want to be remembered as the guy that helped young people. That when kids were, it's great when everything's going great, but when things aren't going great, did my best to help them out.
Yeah. Good. Thanks,
I
Coach.
mean,
What about
with
you,
the young
Skip?
players? I would,
You give
very
that to
very
him for a
similar
second.
for sure.
There you go.
Very similar for sure. Just work hard, come out, give it a try. People ask me in the past about, when should they start playing tackle football? I say play flag football as long as you can, and then come out and have some fun, and just work hard and commit yourself to it like you would anything else. And if you do that, you'll be fine. Like Coach says, you'll always find a niche out here, and football is a game of attrition. Kids. Sometimes it's too hard for some people, and if you've made that commitment, make that commitment. And as a young coach, I remember being a young coach, kind of just sort of overwhelmed when I became a head coach with just kind of understand that you don't have to have all the answers right away. You don't have to. A kid asks you a question, you don't have to know that. Say, hey, I can get back to you. I sort of made that mistake early on, and just get the kids to trust what you're doing, that you're working hard, and the same thing. Legacy that. I was fair. We had fun. I tell all the time, I say, we got to have fun out here. If we're not having fun out here, then football's a drag. Yeah. And you got to have some fun with the kids. And we were fair. They said, what, Coach, he worked me hard, but he was fair. We had fun. He was, I think that's what you're looking for. Coach says relationships is everything. That's what I talked about with the kid pulling over on the side of the road and coming out and giving me a big hug. So.
Yeah, and that's great. And that's, I think that, coaches, it's been a blessing to come here today, talk to you guys. I know we talked a little bit a month and a half ago, and we had to come back and finish this, but I'm glad we did. And it's been so much fun, and I appreciate, and I think you guys know this, that you do have such an impact on people, and you've known that throughout your career, especially these young guys, and you've taken that serious as something that you want to honor that. So I appreciate that, and I'm probably going to speak for a lot of players that played for you, and probably even some that played against you, that in hindsight I have a lot of respect for you guys, because it's a life of dedication, because you know how many hours you're putting in, and a lot of it feels a little thankless at times.
So we passed up some family things too.
Yeah, it's had impact on families, especially raising kids and stuff. And those are life decisions that everybody makes, but there's truth to that, right? And that's a sacrifice.
A balance.
And I really appreciate that. So I just want to say thank you to both of you guys, and appreciate you spending some time with me.
It was fun. It was
Awesome. Appreciate you.
fun. Yeah, appreciate the ones you've done.
All right.
They've been awesome.
Yeah, all right.
Keep
Thanks,
sending
guys.
them.
Yeah, I
That was
will. I
awesome.
will.
Yeah.
So hey everybody, if you liked this video with Coach Bill Ball and Skip Swiezynski here at Exeter High School, longtime coaches, great guys, great opportunity here to sit down with them and walk around and just talk football. If you liked it, hit like, share, comment if you've played for them, or just want to drop any experience that you had that you want to feel free to share. I'd love to start that conversation with you guys. So stay tuned and we'll be on to more. This is Pete Hansen of Pete Hansen Football. Take care, everybody.